Everybody, this is Adam Greenberg with Leaders to Give and Leaders to Inspire, and I'm joined by a very special friend and colleague today, Deb Lawson. Before we jump into the broadcast, I just want to share with you a little bit about Leaders to Inspire and Leaders to Give. Leaders to Inspire is a BC-based company, and we believe that businesses need to lead the corporate social transformation that's happening in society today. A big part of that is gender equality in the workplace. That's the topic today. Leaders to Give is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're registered in California. We do a lot of work to improve the lives of those in need. And in doing so, we teach experiential leadership development, inspiring, empowering, and giving people the opportunity to become the leaders that society so desperately needs. Today, I'm joined by a good friend and colleague, Deb Lawson. Good morning,
Hello. Deb. Afternoon for me.
Good afternoon for you, and thank you very much for joining. I'm really excited to chat with you today. Deb, for those of you who are listening, has had a 30-year, very successful 30-year career in corporate Canada. She's a wife, a mom, a sister, a daughter, has a tremendously supportive family, and does all kinds of great things. She's a board member of Leaders to Give and was part of the group that helped establish the 501c3. She's also a member of the executive team and founder of Leaders to Inspire. Deb and I started working together a very long time ago. I don't want to age her.
Okay, don't age it. No.
But a very long time ago, and it was my first, for me, my first opportunity to work in corporate Canada and corporate sales. And I'll never forget how we really came together as a team. And it blows my mind that so many years later, here we are having this conversation and working continually to work so closely together and have such a great and meaningful friendship. So first, thank you for those years of friendship and for being my first business.
Ditto.
And teaching me so much over the years. When we first got together, Deb, as colleagues, I remember a company. We were both salespeople on the same sales team, but we had different territories. And I remember getting a lead from the marketing team, which was supposed to be an opportunity in my territory. As it turned out, after some work, I realized it was actually in your territory. That's how we came together, and we worked very closely there on that opportunity. Do you remember those? You remember that opportunity? And
I do exactly remember. I remember that opportunity, and it was the initial foundation of some team selling that we partnered together since then. So I do remember that opportunity well, and we won the business together. I think we identified early in our teaming some really complementary skills that we each brought to the table, and I suppose it helped to some degree that it was a male-female combination, although it wasn't. That's not why we did it, but we learned to work with that, and it really enhanced our success individually and collectively since then.
I agree, and I mean, you raise a good point. We didn't think of it as a man and a woman teaming together. We thought of it as two colleagues that had complementary skill sets. But I do also remember those days, and I remember that you were the only female on an all-male team. What was that like for you?
Yeah. Well, I learned to be one of the guys. I also think I worked harder. I felt the need to prove myself. But the corporation was also had awareness enough that success was success as you achieved it, not male or female related, which was awesome. But I remember feeling pressure often to make sure that I could stand up and be successful along with my male colleagues.
Okay, and I hear that. You and I have talked about this before. Because as a male, it didn't really occur to me that you would have to do things differently. I felt that I was also under pressure to perform, but it was different for you. Can you just describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, my kids were young, and my husband worked shifts, and so there was always a balance of trying to accommodate mom responsibilities, family responsibilities, while also performing in my job. And I don't know that, I think we've come some distance since then, but then there was, I mean, I was one of the first people to work from home. I was one of the first 10 people to have a work from home kind of mandate, and I knew that that was a privilege, and I felt I didn't want to abuse that because it really did afford me the opportunity of doing the work-life balance that I so desperately sought after. But I also had pressure at home, not from my family, but I wanted to also be a good role model for my children and help provide for the family too.
You know, that's really an interesting point, and it's also one that I never considered at that time when, you know, the guys would get together after
Yeah.
work and go for drinks or go for a meal. It never occurred to me that that was maybe unfair to others. In this case, it was you. But
Yeah.
through my career, I did, it was brought to my attention that it's really not fair, and trying to find that balance is difficult for all of us.
Yeah.
But I suppose that even today, the expectations of women in the workforce are different than men, despite that there has been great gains. Um, what was it like, I guess, to feel that pull? Was there a pull? Did you have to make tough decisions, and did it have any negative impact when you would say, "Look, guys, I'd love to get together tonight, but I can't. I've got to get home to my kids." Did you feel
Yeah. Yeah.
that was disadvantaging you?
Yeah. Good question. I would never turn down a cold beer. Um, but I just went for one typically because of those obligations at home.
Yeah.
Now we also had opportunity to travel in our jobs and had conferences or meetings or even customer presentations, and so there was always a juggling act that was never exposed to the corporate team or to the leaders in the team. It was always an arm wrestle at home and having to juggle around Doug, my husband's shift work, to allow me to do some of these things. And I was very grateful that he never felt, or I never felt, that there was an imbalance between us. We each had mom and dad responsibilities that afforded me the opportunity to do the things that I did. So I think about that, and I think about yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay.
I think I'll leave it there.
Sure.
Mhm.
Fair enough. And I think when I'm the theme of International Women's Day, which kicks off tomorrow, it's really
Yeah.
a way of celebrating the history of women and the struggles of women and the achievements of women in the workplace and in society in general. And there's lots of great examples, but the theme this year is choose to challenge.
Mm.
And in honoring that theme, you know, I choose to challenge myself to consider some of the challenges that women face in the workplace. I work as an executive of a software company today, among other jobs that I hold, as a small business owner that employs women, as a manager of women in the workplace, and I choose to challenge myself to try to consider their point of view. Sexual harassment, gender discrimination, these are topics that are raised frequently. We read about them in the media. There's new laws in place to protect women from this type of treatment. Did you ever experience any of that, women in the workplace?
Yeah, I did. And it was not openly discussed, but there were a couple of moments that I do think about that I I choose to park and forget about, but I tolerated unnecessarily. Had they happened in this day and age, I probably would have handled it a little differently.
Can we
Now,
sort of interrupt, but can we just touch on that for a moment? Because that's a really
okay.
interesting statement. It wasn't something that was discussed openly. It happened. So you were
Uh-huh.
a victim, and I'll use that word purposefully,
Yeah.
a victim of sexual harassment in the workplace.
Yeah.
At the time, it was not discussed openly. And you just said, had it happened today, you would have
Mm.
looked at it very differently. Can you
Mhm.
expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, because I think I'm just that much more self-aware and I'm more mature. And I wasn't, at the time, I was afraid to speak up because I thought maybe I might have lost my job. And I really wanted that job, and I really took pride in that job. And I just think it's more because of the media, and because we're talking now openly, because we have forums like International Women's Day, and there are, because the world has made some progress on this, I think there's some benefits that are coming from that. So my perception today would be different than how I dealt with that many years ago.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And so, I want to call out to the men in the room here and in positions of power and authority and influence in the workplace. There is no International Men's Day. And there's a reason for that. I'm choosing to challenge my male colleagues to consider that and understand why there's a need for us to specifically call out the inequalities, to take action to balance the inequalities, and to celebrate the achievements and the differences that women bring to the workplace. I've often in my career as a leader thought, man, I wish I could hire more women for these roles, because frankly, I found them to outperform men in many areas. I think diversity of thought is important, and women have a lot to contribute. But if they're feeling victimized, or that they don't have an equal opportunity, that's going to affect our outputs. That's going to affect business outcomes.
Well, look at the work. Yeah, look at how we've established Leaders to Inspire, right? I mean, there's 2 women, 1 man. But we feel united, and there isn't any imbalance. We intentionally respect the equality and the skills and the attributes we bring to create a movement with what we're doing at Leaders to Inspire. So that came at the tail end of my career. So I left the corporate world 4 years ago, in the height of the Me Too movement, in the height of some personal challenges that I was facing with some family and some other circumstances. And I chose to retire out of that corporate life to pursue something more meaningful and purposeful. And my challenge on internet, choose to challenge is those organizations to create an equal opportunity for all genders, and have the opportunity for work to be fulfilling and purposeful for everyone that works there. And I think that's what inspires me the most in the work that we're doing with Leaders to Inspire, and in the movement with corporate social transformation, as you indicate.
Beautifully said. And Leaders to Give is also comprised, when it was founded a few years ago, mostly by an all-women, an all-female team.
Yep.
Again, in that environment, I was the only man on the board. Today, that's not the case, but it's still comprised mostly of women. So thanks for pointing that out. And you also mentioned that we're united, and I'm particularly proud that Leaders to Inspire, under your leadership, under Tracy's leadership, so closely with Leaders to Give, under the leadership and influence of mostly females, to help organizations unite their investments in talent management, talent development, corporate social responsibility, brand awareness and recognition. And the retreats we run show organizations how they can accomplish that unification and alignment, and to drive better business outcomes. Deb, you talked about leaving corporate Canada, and not that particular example. There's lots of examples I could share with you, but the word that comes to mind when I think of you, and I think of the work that you do today and the work you've always done, is courage. I admire your courage. I've always admired that about you. Does it take an extra level of courage to be a woman in the workplace today?
That's a great question. It depends. I think it depends on the organizations. If there are companies out there that have policies and procedures and a mission and a vision to support and balance the gender equities, then probably not. Those corporations that aren't that further along, who could learn and adopt what some of these other corporations are doing by way of policies and celebrating the successes of what women contribute. I think if they don't have those things, then yes, it's going to be harder for women to pursue. But I think there's a lot of, I mean, I have personal friends that are female, that are women, that have started their own companies and been very successful as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, and those folks inspire me all day long. I just would like to have an inclusive workforce where everyone feels a balance. And, that's utopia, but I think we're further along now than we were 10 years ago. I mean, I have my children now. You met them when they were very young, but they're entering the workforce. And I want my daughter to feel that she's not at a disadvantage being a female in her line of work. And certainly I want my son to be aware of this conversation and what it means to be a man and a leader in the workforce, and gender equality across the board.
Well said. Well said. I'm going to share a phrase that has become very popular over the last 4 or 5 years. Not popular for a good reason, but it's a phrase. It's a phrase that everybody's heard of. Locker room talk.
Oh,
the comment itself, the sentence itself, makes me personally feel ill, because I don't feel that I was ever a part of that culture of locker room talk, and we all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But maybe I was. I don't really remember, and if I was, it's because it was accepted and expected. Did you ever experience, when you're hanging out with an all-male crew, any of that locker room talk, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, well, the answer is yes. And sadly, I participated in it to be able to fit in. And I'm not proud of that, but I could, I mean, I partly have I survived the old boys club. I survived being one of the guys because I felt I had to. And it would be different today. It would be different today. And it is different today because I've made the choice to help create an awareness in what we do, and there isn't a disparity of equity.
Well, there's that courage characteristic again.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that. What about pay, Deb? I'm not asking you to share your pay, but did you feel equally compensated, fairly compensated? Do you feel that you had the same opportunity as the men to earn?
I do, because I was in a role. I think it was because it was in a role that was predominantly filled by male colleagues. So I don't feel that I was unfairly compensated. I believe I had equal opportunity, but I know that that's not the case with some of my gal pals in the workforce.
Well, I can tell you firsthand that I'm aware that there is pay inequality in corporations today. I've seen it with my own eyes in hiring practices. I don't know if it's on purpose. I really don't. It seems to be that there is a subconscious bias out there. Your contributions have always been outstanding, so I'm glad to hear that you impacted that way.
Well, I think so. Of course, I never compared notes, but I think so. I want to think so. How's that?
I think so. I think so as well.
But what's equally, when you talk about pay, in all of my 35-year career, I reported to a female once.
Mm-hmm.
They were all male leaders, male bosses. And many of, I'm still very good friends with that one female leader who inspired me. I had lots of role models inside the company who were female that inspired me. And I think in some way I inspired. And I also, as a I mean, the company looks very different today, but there are more females in senior selling roles than there ever was before. So there's lots of reasons for that, but a little secret desire that I hope is that I pave the way for others.
Well, I think you did. So I hope that you feel proud of that. You should. And there's no question that you had a big role there. Just a couple more questions, Deb. I don't want to take too much of your Sunday, but I find it to be a really important and interesting topic. And again, I choose to challenge myself to behave, to think differently, to promote gender equality in the workplace. And as a leader in several businesses, I have an obligation and a responsibility. And when people ask me about that and I say those words, their reaction is often, I understand because you're a father of a daughter. And that is not why. That is not why. I just want to make, for the record, I want people to stop talking that way and thinking that way. It has nothing to do with having a daughter. It has to do with a passion and a conviction and a desire to see the outcomes that we're all working so hard to achieve. And I believe that gender equality will simply help us get to those outcomes. It's not only is it the right thing to do, but it makes good business sense.
Well, thank you. We need more of that out there. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
Well, and we wrote about that, you in particular, in our white paper called Corporate Social Transformation. And last week's blog spoke specifically about gender equality at work. And you highlighted some tips specifically. Well, the white paper has a series of 6 steps. So I would encourage people who are listening or watching to this, if they're looking for tips and ways to do this in their organization, download the white paper. You can get it at leaders2inspire.com. Right there on the homepage is the option to download the paper. But last week's blog, you specifically highlighted how we would address those gender inequality opportunities for corporations as it aligns to the steps involved in creating a social transformation in the corporate world. And we're excited to be able to do that. So yay. Yay, yes!
Yay. Deb, thanks very much again for taking the time to chat with me.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity. This was fun. This new technology that we're doing. So it's all so good.
Any final thought that you'd like to share as we wrap up here?
Yeah. Think about what we've said and really choose to challenge and, raise your hand when you see that there's an imbalance, and challenge each other when there's inequities. And that's about all that's my final thought.
Okay.
It's out there. We have a long way to go, but we've come a long way too. So thank you for your leadership in helping others see the value in what we're doing.
Well, it's a sincere privilege. So for those of you listening, if you'd like to learn more about Leaders to Inspire and the corporate social transformation initiatives, or to download the white paper, please visit our website at www.leader2, and that's the number 2 with no number sign. It's www.leaders2inspire.com. If you'd like to get more involved and to learn more about our 501c3, please visit www.leaders2give.org. Thanks very much for tuning in, and have yourself a great rest of the weekend.
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.